Hey, I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue, and welcome to a Thanksgiving special. That's right, just a couple of weeks, families everywhere will be celebrating Thanksgiving, and I hope you take advantage of the amazing smoker you've got in your backyard to prepare this year's bird. Now, a lot of you ask questions, which way should we do that? You've got a lot of choices, whether we roast it, spatchcock it, or even rotisserie it. And so I thought I would put the two most common methods today head to head. So I went out and got two turkeys the same weight, and one of them we've been spinning on our JoeTisserie. Oh, that one's looking good. And the other one we've got on the Big Joe hanging out over here, spatchcocked. I'll move the camera a little bit closer so we can catch you up on everything that's going on to get to this point. But I'm going to be covering three things in today's video. I'll put chapter links down below if you want to skip to the section that's most interesting to you. So first, I'm going to walk you through how to prep the birds regardless of the style that you choose, whether you want to use your rotisserie, which I'm a huge fan of, or if you want to spatchcock it, and which is when I'm doing chicken, my favorite. We're gonna find out how it goes on today's turkey. The second chapter will be how to set up your joes for today's cook in terms of should you use smoking wood, where you should place it, charcoal, if you're gonna be using the rotisserie, or you're going to be using the rack system that you might have saw in that intro setup scene. I'll walk you through the hows and whys, whats for each setup. And then lastly, we're gonna have a good old-fashioned taste test and see which one, if there's any difference, stands out and maybe accentuates that turkey holiday flavor along with the best of barbecue for you and your family to enjoy. So that's what you're in for. And if at the end of this video I've earned it, please go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe to catch future videos. All right, so let's get started with our first chapter. While I do my best to stay as dry as possible, one of the things I'm not thankful for, thunder showers in the middle of a YouTube video. Outside of that, we have a lot to be thankful for. I just kid. So let me walk you through the setup for today's method. First thing I'll do is share an article down below. It was written a couple years ago in New York Times, and it was, I think, titled something, "The End of Brining and the Rise of Dry Brining." And that article has been hugely influential in how I like to prepare my poultry, including turkeys. It's a great read. I'm not going to cover everything that's in it, but I highly suggest you go check that out. One of the reasons that I love it is I find, A, you get amazing results. I also find the dry brine helps add that crispy skin that we're looking for. And frankly, it's just so much simpler rather than making a homemade from scratch wet brine, soaking the bird overnight, then getting it dry. I've just never got that skin or texture that I'm looking for. Some amazing flavor, but not the skin. And so if you love skin on your bird, I definitely suggest the salt dry brining method. So for our setup, what I did as soon as I got these two birds home is just got them out of the package and went ahead and started to spatchcock the first bird. If you've not heard of that term, what you need is some sharp kitchen scissors or shears, and you want to remove the spine, cutting up each side until the spine has been removed. The next thing that I like to do when I'm spatchcocking a bird is just use that scissor again to break the breastbone so I can go ahead and remove that center plate from the bird. And that allows us to cut right through the bird and make a better presentation when it comes to carving. For our rotisserie bird, followed very similar steps minus the removing the spine area, just drying it really well, removing any of that excess skin, anything that we don't want on the bird. And then we salted them both liberally with Diamond Kosher crystal salt. This is one of my three favorite salts. You hear me talk about it regularly on the channel. I'll put a link down below if you're looking to find what that looks like so you recognize it when you're out at your local grocery store. And then after we've seasoned them both liberally with our Diamond Kosher crystal salt, it's putting them to bed in the fridge on an air rack overnight. And that'll bring us into this morning when we're ready for our next step. Okay, so after our birds have been to rest for about 24 hours, what we want to go ahead and do is start seasoning them. And since I found the aromatic seasonings tend to burn up when we put them on the barbecue, a little method that has been working really well is to go ahead and take some olive oil, bring that to a mild simmer, add in some garlic, some rosemary, some thyme, and some sage, and stir that really well under some low to medium heat for a couple minutes until you see the garlic start to brown. Then what we're gonna do after that cools is strain off the aromatics and set aside for later that aromatic infused olive oil for our basting solution. After we've got our basting solution ready, the next thing we want to do is add some seasoning to your bird. You can add it inside if you like. I suggest doing this the evening before, because after you do the salt brine, the skin is a little bit more difficult to remove without tearing. I like our seasoning on the outside, so I just used our household rub that we use all the time, which is a rub with no salt, since I love dry brining everything ahead of time. The base elements of this is pepper, garlic, onion, some smoked paprika, and a little bit of cayenne, just for that kick on the back of the tongue. It's even kid friendly, and I highly suggest it. I'll put some of the ingredients down below if you'd like to make it for yourself. The next thing that we're going to want to do as well while we're seasoning up our birds is go ahead and prepare our bird for the rotisserie and just get some butcher twine, and we want to try and hold those legs together as well as those wings. And so you're just going to wrap each spot and tie some knots, and that'll just keep it from flailing, especially as it cooks and it gets more tender. You don't want a leg falling off or wings falling off or being more exposed to the heat. So that's everything that we need to do to get ready for our birds after we've dry brined them, prepared our basting solution, as well as seasoned them up and trussed them up nicely, got them ready to go on the Kamado Joe. Let's go to our second chapter now, where it's everything you need to know for each setup, whether you're going to do spatchcock, which I'm doing today on the Big Joe, or the JoeTisserie on my left. Okay, so for setting up our Joes, I like to keep it pretty simple when it comes to smoking wood. Don't want too much wood, and I want to make sure that it's going to burn cleanly. So that either means we have enough air or we're going at a hot enough temperature that wood becomes fully combusted. My very first turkey on a ceramic cooker, I made a bunch of mistakes. I actually followed a recipe on YouTube, and it does everything that I've turned out to not like, which is getting wood chips, soaking them, and cooking that bird really low and slow. And I know this is kind of a gross analogy, but it kind of tastes a lot like a bird that was out in this rainstorm. Very, very gross, just wet, smoky, a little bit like a tree. Nobody liked it, myself included. And so to help prevent that, we're gonna put our smoking wood on both grills, right on the bottom grate, add our charcoal on top of that. And today I'm using 2 Kamado Joe fire starters to help get our fire started quickly. So once we've got our fires started, you'll notice on the JoeTisserie unit, I want to bank those coals towards the back. So that way we're still getting a little bit of a direct area to help finish our skin, but also a cool side so that we're just not overcooking the outside and having a raw bird inside. My very first experience with the JoeTisserie, one of the mistakes I made is going for a high heat, which got an amazing outside bird, but we ended up having to throw it in the oven, and we couldn't eat dinner when we thought because the inside was not done well enough. And so we're gonna be aiming for about 320 to 350 degrees, which is going to help us find that perfect balance of cooking the inside all the way through, as well as getting a great skin on the outside. To set up our Big Joe where we're doing a spatchcock, what I'm doing today is I'm using the heat deflector plates in a low position on the X accessory rack, and then I'll be putting an aluminum drip pan on the grid, as well as using my rib V-rack. This accessory is really handy for doing ribs vertically, but it's also really handy for situations like this, which is holding our bird up so that we can capture those drippings. Added a little bit of water in that drip pan just so that the drippings don't burn, and we can use those to make a gravy after the birds are done if we'd like. So now that both grills are ready, let's go ahead and get them on. So I'm counting about a 2.5 hour cook on the a 2 hour cook, pardon me, on the rotisserie, and about an 1.5 hour cook on the spatchcock. So you notice I definitely lit the fire first on the classic, and that's just to get that bird a little bit more time, since we're going to be going a little bit slower. Spatchcock birds, I love to do about the 400-degree range, since we help crisp that skin up on the outside, as well as render out that fat more effectively. So we'll be taking these until the breasts read about 160, 165 degrees, and the thighs are reading about 175, 180 degrees, and they'll continue to climb a little bit more in terms of the temperature. For keeping everything under control, I'll be using my meter probe in the rotisserie bird, because there's no wires to get caught and tangled, and this is where this probe absolutely shines versus its wired companions. And to help keep track of the spatchcock bird, I'll be using the Inkbird BBQ 4T. I finally remembered the name of it. I always just call it a bunch of letters and numbers to help track our grill temperature as well as our bird temperature on the spatchcock bird. Anyways, that is it for the setup of our grill. Let's regroup once we have these off, rested, sliced, and we can do a bit of a taste test and final thoughts. All right, I waited as long as we could, but this rain is not letting up. So we let our birds rest for about 20 minutes, and we were pretty close on the timing. So the JoeTisserie bird was just about 2 hours and 11 minutes before it was probing exactly where we want it in the dark meat. And our spatchcock bird a little bit quicker, about an 1.5 hours. So after they've rested, I've gone ahead and sliced those up, put them on a platter. I'll put a picture up on the screen. With the rain, I'm not able to bring everything out and show you as I wanted to, but it looks and smells awesome. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into our taste test. Now, full disclosure, we have some friends over for Friendsgiving and take advantage of it. I've already done samples and passing around, and we have a unanimous winner here. So I'm gonna go ahead, taste it, and share what I find, but I already know what everyone has voted for. So let's dig in and see if we can taste the difference between our two birds. So I would normally hold this out. I don't want to get it all wet. So this is our spatchcock bird. So we've got some white, some dark. This is our rotisserie bird. Again, some white, some dark. Let's go ahead and start with our spatchcock. I'm starting with the spatchcock because that is our reigning champion. Reigning. Huh. Sometimes the dad jokes just write themselves. When I've done this test before using chickens, I actually preferred the spatchcock bird to the rotisserie. So I'm going to start with the winner. Our seasoning is on point. This has got just a little kick. I mentioned just a dash of cayenne. I'm going to be putting a little bit more in a dash there. This is really, really good. You know what? It's a touch dry. And I know that's a kind of a trademark of staple of turkey, if you will, versus chicken. And I love spatchcock, chicken. Well, it's just a touch dry. I'm going to go ahead and try the white now from the rotisserie bird, see where we're at. Just looking at it, I can see a difference between the two. You could serve me this turkey any day, I'd be happy. That is amazing. And that's the breast from a turkey. It's moist, ton of flavor, great mouthfeel. I'm really happy with that. Let's try the dark. I'm gonna go dark with the spatchcock first. I miscut that. I had a little bit of bone, but outside of that, much better than the white. And again, rub is on point. Let's go ahead and try the dark from the rotisserie bird. See, I don't know why I don't listen to you guys. I full expected when we started today's test, this would just be a repeat of the chicken experiment where we did a rotisserie bird, spatchcock bird. Everyone in the family voted for spatchcock. I'm afraid with turkey though, it's 100% the JoeTisserie bird is everyone's favorite. And I can see what they were telling me about inside, why they love it. It's moist, It's got that great smoked charcoal flavor, but it's not overpowering. It's just like an ingredient. We want to use it like a seasoning. We don't want too much of something. Treat smoke like you would salt. A little is good, way too much, not so good. So I was really surprised with today's results. I thought we did a couple things that worked out really well. One, doing the spatchcock on the V-rack with the drip pan, that allowed us to capture those drippings and make some gravy. So if you want to make some gravy, absolutely the spatchcock method can work and save the gravy, whereas the JoeTisserie bird, I was only able to capture a little bit of drippings after letting it rest for those 20 minutes. The JoeTisserie bird, on the other hand, we didn't do that today, but if you like to make stuffing, I think we absolutely could have stuffed this bird and cooked it on the JoeTisserie and gotten the same great result. And we'd have a bird with stuffing and all the fixings, all off our Kamado Joe. So we're gonna call this one lights out, hands down winner, JoeTisserie. And this has just upped the high level of respect that I already had for the JoeTisserie. I've done some legs of lamb and other things on it, and it's been spectacular. But as of late, the non-JoeTisserie experiments have been winning. Chicken wings, for example, I think it was the last one that I did where the non-JoeTisserie wing beat the JoeTisserie wing. But today on turkey, it's unanimous, 100%. The winner is the JoeTisserie. If you've not seen one before in your store, I'll go ahead and put a link down below for my Amazon store. You can find one there. Keep your eye out for Black Friday sales, holiday sales. If you didn't already have this on your wish list, I think it would go ahead and make an awesome gift idea and a perfect addition to your barbecue arsenal. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video in terms of how to prep turkeys for Thanksgiving, your holiday feast, as well as how to set your Joe up for regardless of which two setups you want to do, as well as learn something in terms of the cook and how to pull that off regardless of the method that you're using. Until next time, I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue, signing off.